Greetings, my dear friends. I'm at a different location, so I'm not sure about internet connection here, but we hope for the best. We are going to address something that was partially a topic of one of our latest discussions at our Telegram group. Your concerns about the future of the world, future of your country, are totally understandable. We are awakened and alive, and we acutely feel interconnectedness of all life. And it's not something that we supposedly need to fight with. Our healthy and awakened souls will never accept the idea that we need to think only about ourselves and to leave the world alone to its own so-called karma. No, we know that this is not true. You feel the truth within the depth of your soul, and we can't avoid being concerned and responsible for the world around us. Just recently, my personal interaction with Almin, actually yesterday via text messages, she asked me to remind our Russian Light family about our mission here, to save humanity from self-destruction. I personally spoke with some of them, and many of them acknowledged that life seemed meaningless until they found the purpose of their existence as a sacred government, by proxy, saving humanity from self-destruction. Otherwise, why all those spiritual practices, those tools, those teachings? If it's only for ourselves, for our own pleasure, it doesn't make any sense at all. But if it's for the world, for humanity, then they make all sense. Some of us expressed our concern about prophecies, about global wars, global cataclysms. But Almin told us many times, on many occasions, that those prophecies that were ever spoken through her were meant to never come true. And we will see why. Every prophecy was spoken at certain conditions, created by the peculiarities of the state of being and lifestyles of us, the global light family, at the particular time and circumstances when the prophecy was spoken. But things can change in a twinkle of an eye, and the future changes accordingly. Almin says that it's really impossible to predict the future, because the future changes every second by thought and attitude of the sacred government of the earth, or us. And we are the sacred government, of course. Whenever the future looks hopeless, it's when we cultivate the attitude of hopelessness. Whenever the future looks cataclysmic, it's when we cultivate self-destructive attitudes and habits. And whenever future looks happy, it's when we cultivate the attitude of happiness. It was well said by some of us that the world is our mirror. It is true. According to Almin, it's only you who exists. And if you stand between two mirrors, you see your countless reflections. And this is the world, with all its governments, with all its armies, with all its businesses, all kinds of its expressions. You can practice it, actually. Get two mirrors and stand between them. And you see billions and billions and billions of people, all kinds of government officials, presidents, military personnel, global business networks, political systems, alliances. And we need to answer the question, who are they really? Who does really exist? The one who stands between two mirrors. And why do we even slightly express a concern about who is going to be the next president of your country? And how can an enlightened being such as you are may even say that the future of your country depends on the results of your next presidential elections? As if they stand in the center between the mirrors and you are one of the reflections that will inevitably make the same movements as the originator of the mirror image. Now you can see what the true prophecy is. One of the ancient Greek meanings of the word prophecy. Prophecy is actually a Greek word from the word prophemi, propheteia, literally means projection. like a movie. We use light to project the image. The Greek phemi comes from phos, pure brilliant light. So who is the projector and what movie you see in your mirrors? The one that you project out of yourself. If you don't like the movie in the mirrors, project the one you like. If, for example, we keep self-destructive attitudes such as self-pity, self-importance, rage, resentment, and the like, and if you still cultivate self-destructive habits such as computer games, smoking, consuming alcohol and drugs, and pornography, and things like that, you will see in the news and around the world what you project: destruction. We can change the situation, but it's not something that we do once and for all. It's how we live and what we do systematically on the regular basis. Every second of our life, we do our Toltec self-stalking. We are acutely self-aware. We consciously, deliberately, and carefully choose what to think, what to feel, and what to say. We are not victims of our moods. We are the masters of our moods and attitudes. It literally means that they are a matter of our conscious choice, conscious decisions. We decide not to be angry or pessimistic or depressed. It's only up to us. Our true divine selves are our true identities, not our minds, not our emotions, not our hormones. It's important to keep ourselves away from all kinds of emotional attachments, dependent and codependent relationships, because they are toxic by default, by their nature, as they're based on emotional entanglements and emotional manipulation. People manipulate other people in order to keep them in their lives. It's toxic, it's destructive. No wonder why we see destructive patterns in our mirrors. And the main reason why it's so is our forgetfulness. If we always remember who we truly are, then we just can't be entangled emotionally by our nature. Because fully awake person can't naturally cultivate toxic codependent relationships. Only those who are asleep can cultivate that. And when we are asleep spiritually, when our consciousness is asleep, we forget who is who and who is where, and we begin to perceive ourselves as one of the reflections and completely forget that we stand between the mirrors. A sort of special disorientation, sort of who am I and where am I? Who am I and where am I? If you only come back to reality and see, here you are, and here are the mirrors. You stand between the mirrors, and what you see in the mirrors are your reflections. And they are what you are. And they do what you do, because they're just your reflections. We absolutely don't care about governments. Well, there are certain algorithms and patterns that you know how life works, and you enforce them because of your wisdom. You go about your life business, taxes, and so on, things like that. This is not that this is something we should be concerned about. Why we still pay taxes, why we still go to work, and why those reflections sometimes seem like they are originators of the image. It all depends on your level of awakening or wakefulness. Are you still asleep? Are you still unconscious? Or you are half asleep, half awake? That's much better. Or totally awake. Oh, that would be ideal. Totally awake and aware of who and where you are. who I am and where I am. Oh, great thing to know. And the seeming world is changing depending on your fluctuation movements between being fully asleep and fully awake. Like we fall asleep and dream that we are one of our reflections. And here we have some governments and armies of the world, and they seem to have their own self-consciousness and their own self-volition, and they're unpredictable and dangerous. And then you wake up and you realize that it was just a dream. And you now wake up and realize that it was just a dream. And you are the only one that exists. And you stand between the mirrors. So here I am, and here the mirrors are. So everything is in their own places. And you see your endless reflections. And if you raise your hand, all of them will raise their hands because they are bound to do what you do just by their nature. If you understand that they're nothing more than just reflections, you realize that they're not worth of your time and attention. You just keep doing what you're doing and they will follow. But you determine the behavioral patterns of your reflections. I understand that on the practical level, it may seem much more complex that the basic information that we're sharing. But our first step, our first and foremost, the most important step is obtaining clarity of understanding on the mental level, non-cognitive and cognitive. And cognitive is not less important than non-cognitive. They work in synchronicity. And the technical part is the most easiest. You just do what you know that you are supposed to do by your inner knowledge, by inner wisdom that you have. If you are awake, you just by default walk by your inner wisdom, which is hyperactive in you. And the reflections are bound to follow you just because they are reflections. Nothing is simpler than that. But the most important primary high priority issue here is how much awake we are. In a deep sleep, then we are out of touch with reality at all. Shallow sleep, sometimes we wake up and what's going on? Wow, everything seems under total control. Just thought about something and it was instantly manifested. Perfect synchronicity. Right places, right times, right people all the time. What a miracle life. And then suddenly things change and nightmarish reality back to deep sleep. Imagine if you fall asleep between the mirrors, you will lose touch with yourself and with the mirrors. And you find yourself in a different world just because we forgot ourselves and immediately found ourselves out of touch with reality. If we are in touch with reality, we don't care who the next president will be because we know how to really take care of reflections, to be their originator and expressor, and they will reflect and express what you originate. That's why we call ourselves original ones, because we are original thinkers and we are authors of our own lives. And we have authority over the world of mirrors because we are its authors. And we feel it deeply when we are awake, or even at least half awake. The issue here is not technical. The issue here is a sleep of self-forgetfulness. And this is the main emphasis of self-work called stalking in the Toltec tradition. Literally, every second of our lives, we remind ourselves that we are authors and originators of our reality, that we stand between the mirrors and all the world is our reflections, and what the original image is, so the reflections will be. We take care of the original image ourselves and not of reflections. They will copy the original anyway. There's a saying that it's better to be a bad original than to be a good copy. It's okay if our very first original thoughts and decisions that we made by ourselves may seem feeble. It's like a child learns how to walk, especially if we got used to depend on others for guidance and decision making, like a learned habit. Like we had someone in Russia, after we explained to this person that there are no higher powers to pray to, that he is the highest power, author, originator, and creator of his life. And his response was, "Oh, Sergey, you are such a wonderful being. Oh, you are an angel. Oh, you speak so beautifully. You explain things so clearly. It's such a pleasure to listen to you. Oh, yes, I understand that we are highest powers. Of course, I understand that completely. Only please tell me if there are any prayers that are best for the morning." Prayers? But we just discussed the entire 15 minutes that there are no high powers. This person is a perfect example of a sleeping man walking. What's really going on with this example? I could hear the person speaking. I could observe that his speech was very emotional, very instinctual, especially instinct of self-protection. If someone praises us a lot, it means that self-protection instinct is in operation. It's a widespread learned pattern to express words of praise towards someone or something the person doesn't completely understand or doesn't completely trust. And if he doesn't understand something or he encounters something that tries to challenge his established belief systems, he starts feeling insecure in this situation and he gets out of the subconscious mind what is most available, words of praise, because he subconsciously feels that if he praises someone enough, it's less likely that the praised one will cause something harmful or painful. Flattery as a heart-winning tool. But really, it's not him speaking. It was his body with its self-protective algorithm. His consciousness was obviously fast asleep. We can detect that because the person doesn't even slightly grasp the meaning of our words, because his next request totally contradicts his words of praise. If someone is truly at least half awake, his responses show understanding of our message, at least to some extent. If he doesn't completely grasp it, he honestly admits it. But if he perfectly understands the truth and feels it deeply, then he is fully awake. So, how to keep our consciousness awake all the time? We can be creative in that. We can use all available tools. Actually, all means tools promote and stimulate our inner state of wakefulness, our inner state of self-remembrance. We can use any of them at your choice. Or you can use the music of sound elixirs. Whenever you hear the music of elixirs, it reminds you about your place between two mirrors, about you being the author and originator of the reflections, and not vice versa. Use your creativity. Active originality and creativity are actually exceptionally effective tools that keep you awake all the time, literally uninterruptedly. Talk to you soon.